Welcome to Mr. News Art Class. It's wonderful to see your smiling faces today. Today we're going to learn the first step in creating beautiful portraits. I've created this guide here that looks sort of like a person, and this is extremely useful for showing us where the different parts of the face belong, like so. And I also have this guide for how to create these construction lines. And if you're watching this at home and you want to print either one of these and use them as a guide, I'll leave links in the description for where you can find them and download them. So what the heck is this thing I'm looking at? This is what we call construction. Notice that it has a place for the eyes, it has a place for the ears, a place for the nose, a place for the mouth, a place where hair is going to be. This area here will be the forehead. And it also shows us where the neck and shoulders are going to be and the outline of the cheeks and the chin. If we throw a photograph behind here, you can see that these proportions don't exactly fit. Her head goes a little bit higher up here. Her cheeks come a little bit out. Her shoulders are a little bit lower in a slightly different angle. Her neck is a little bit wider. But these proportions are general and can be used as a guide. Here's another example. We see that this gentleman has his head hunched downward, and therefore his shoulders are much higher compared to his chin. Also, his head is tilted to the right ever so slightly, which is why this side of his face comes out a little bit, and this side of his face comes in a little bit. And this photograph, the woman's face is tilted the other way, ever so slightly. So in this case, her face comes out a little bit on this side. She has a slightly wider face, so it still lines up pretty well on that side. Her ear is much further out on this side, and we don't see this ear at all because her face is tilted to the side. Today we are going to learn how to create this basic construction so that you can create portraits that look lifelike and realistic anywhere you are, whether you're looking at a person or not. The materials we're going to use to create our construction lines are a compass, a pencil, and a paper. Now, any compass will do, but it's helpful to also have a ruler. This compass has a ruler edge on one side. For starters, I'm going to make a tiny dot right in the middle of my paper. Maybe it's a little higher than the center, but somewhere very close to the middle. That's just going to help me start with a center point for my circle. We're going to start with a circle. Now, on this paper, this is a 9-inch by 12-inch paper. The best size I've found to do for this is a 2.5-inch radius circle. So on this particular compass, the way we use it is we look at these numbers down here, not these numbers up here. This is the ruler. These numbers with the arrows pointing at the holes tell us a radius of a circle. So there's the 2-inch radius. There's the 3-inch radius. I want 2.5. That's this line in between the 2 and 3, which means it's this hole. So what I'm going to do is line up this, the center of this circle onto my dot. Find that 2.5-inch hole. Basically, it's right next to the 3.14 here. Because it's between the 3 and the 2. And while holding the center in place, spin that around to make a nice circle. Next, that, by the way, is called the cranium. We can go ahead and label that the cranium. The cranium is the brain case. That's the part of your head where your brain is. Now, if you measure from the center to the outside, that's the radius, it should be right around 2.5 inches. We also want to measure straight down from the bottom of the circle down 2.5 inches down. That's the same distance as the radius, right? If I was doing this without a ruler, I would just measure with my fingers, move that measurement down. But since I have a ruler, that's helpful. About 2.5 inches. That's how low the chin is going to be. Halfway between the center of the circle and the bottom of the circle, so 2.5 divided by 2 would be 1.25, right? You can measure it like that, or you could just estimate halfway and measure it this way, whichever way works for you. But halfway between the center of the circle and the bottom of the circle, we're going to draw a horizontal line, and we'll call this the eye line. We call it the eye line because that's where the center of the eyes are going to be. Notice that this is not the center of the circle. A lot of people want to put the eyes too high. We'll see why that's a bad thing in a minute. Now, from the chin, we can curve up to the eye line to create our cheeks. And this is just a general guide. Everybody's cheeks have a different shape, but this is a general guide for where the cheeks or the jaw will be. We can call that the jaw line, is what I usually refer to. Now, it's also helpful to draw a center line. I don't always do this when I'm making a frontal portrait. This is a frontal where we're looking at the front of a face. If you were looking at a profile view where the face is pointing to the side, then the center line would be at the side. But this is especially helpful if you're looking at what we call a 3/4 view, where the face is not pointed sideways, it's not pointed straight at you, it's kind of in between. And but the center line will just help in those cases to make sure you get things in the right places. In this case, it's not 100% necessary. Because we're looking flat on, we can just think symmetrically. Everything is going to be even on both sides. Next, the eyes. This is why it's really helpful to have a ruler for this. We know that the radius of this cranium is 2.5 inches, which means that the whole width of the head is 2.5 plus 2.5, which is 5 inches wide. The circles for the eyes, we're about to place in some circles for the eyes, but how big do we make them? And the answer is the whole width of the head is 5 eyeballs wide. So we divide the width of the head by 5. That's how big the eyeballs should be. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So each eyeball should be 1 inch wide. They should also be 1 inch between the eyes and 1 inch outside of the eyes. Here's how that's going to look. If there's going to be 1 inch between the two eyes, notice how I've lined up my ruler with the 1/2 inch mark on that center line. So I can make a mark at the 0 and the 1, and that's a 1 inch gap. My eyes are going to start at these marks and go out by 1 inch. So I can measure 0 to 1. And I can also see that from the outside edge of that eyeball to the outside edge of the head, there's another inch. Let's do the same on this side. 1 inch wide for the eyeball. And if we measure from the outside edge of the eyeball to the outside edge of the head, that's another inch. So I've got some marks here. I could go in here and, try to find a perfect circle in there. But what I'm really concerned about here is just making sure they're the right width. So I'm just going to pencil in some circles that are that wide. And again, I'll go back and measure and show you. This eyeball is 1 inch wide. This eyeball is 1 inch wide. There's 1 inch between the two eyes, or half an inch on this side of the eye, center line and half an inch on this side of the center line, adds up to 1 inch total. And if you look from the edge of the eyeball to the outside of the head, that's another inch. Again, on this side, from the outside of the eyeball to the edge of the head, there's another inch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches, or 5 eyeballs wide. Next, from the inside corners of both eyes, we're going to drop straight down and make parentheses. These parentheses should be on that cranium line, that big circle. That's the outline of where the nose is going to be. Sometimes I also like to pencil in a line across there and call it the nose line. Why is that important? Ears are why that's important. When you draw ears, they will be between the eye line and the nose line. So we can go ahead and pencil in those ears from the eye line to the nose line. Next, down in this section, we're going to have the mouth. And you can use your ruler to measure, or you can just estimate halfway between the tip of the nose and the bottom of the chin. So that would be 1 1/4 inches, since we've got 2.5 inches total divided by 2. That's going to be the bottom of your mouth. The bottom of your mouth. The top of your mouth is going to be half of that distance. I'm not going to bother measuring it. I'm just going to eyeball it and put in about halfway. That's the top of the mouth. And then again, halfway between there, this is the middle of the mouth. You know, there's going to be a line between your lips. How wide should that line be? Take a look at your eyes. From the center of your eyes straight down, that is how wide the mouth should be. And next, the only thing we have left is the hairline. Right now, this looks like a big bald guy. The forehead just goes all the way up. There's no hair. So the hairline is going to be an interesting structure, because hairlines, well, first of all, they're different for every person, but so is everything else. With a hairline, there's a lot of parts to it. So first we got to think about the sideburns. Your hair in front of your ear has a little bit of a space where it grows in front of your ear. So what I've done is gone halfway between the eye and the ear and made a little bit of a rectangle there. Now, I know that not everybody has sideburns, but it's important to know that hair grows from there, because a lot of people, like if you have long hair, you'll have hair that grows here, but then you get pulled back behind your ears or something like that. So it's important to know that hair grows here in this area. Once you've got the sideburns on both sides, the next step is the forehead. So halfway between the eye line and the top of the cranium, not here at the center of your circle, but halfway between the eye line and the top of the cranium. So if I wanted to, I could measure that. It's about 3 3/4 inches divided by 2 is 1 and something in that. I could measure it, or I could just estimate. Especially because, you know, some people have a shorter forehead or a taller forehead. Some people have a receding hairline where they're getting bald, like Mr. New, and so the hairline would be higher up. So just an estimate is fine. And we're going to go ahead and draw this in as a semicircle. Now, a lot of people have different shapes to their hairline. We'll talk about that when we talk about hair and how to draw hair, but this is a basic construction of where a hairline should be, and we can go ahead and label that as the hairline. The last part of our construction is the neck and shoulders. Now, what I see a lot of people doing wrong a lot of the time is drawing a tiny little neck with big bumpy shoulders underneath like this tiny little body underneath a gigantic head. And that's totally goofy. It's okay if you're like purposefully trying to draw a bobblehead to do that. But if you're trying to draw a realistic portrait, we need to know where the chin, where the neck and the shoulders actually belong. And so if you look in a mirror or if you look at a person, you'll see that the neck is actually almost as wide as the cheeks, almost as wide as the jaw. So I've made the neck a lot wider than that little straw I drew to begin with. Now, necks come in lots of different lengths. Some people have longer necks or shorter necks. Just generally speaking, having it come a little bit below the chin is good. Considering, if there was going to be a shirt, there would be a curved collar to the shirt, so you'd see more of the neck down here. The shoulders angle slightly as they go out. They shouldn't be straight, and they shouldn't be big bumps like that. I see that a lot. They should angle slightly down as they go out. And how wide should the shoulders be? If we measure the whole width of the head, that should be 5 inches because of the way we used our compass. And then we take that measurement and move it out to the side like this, to where one end of that measurement is on the center line. And then we drop that down. That's how far out the shoulder should come. It should come off the edge of the page in my case. And then on the other side, again, off the edge of the page. I have a 9-inch wide paper. So the shoulders together are twice as wide as the head. The head is 5 inches wide. The shoulders are going to be 10 inches wide. So the shoulders are going to go off the edges of the paper on both sides. And so there you see the basic construction. This is useful for showing us where things belong so that when we learn how to draw eyes and how to draw a nose and how to draw a mouth, we can put them in the right place. And if we put them in the right place on the correct foundation, then in the end, our final drawing is going to look much more accurate than it would without this foundation. So now that we've figured out how to create these construction lines, we can see how they can be used to create a portrait. So now that we've learned how to create these construction lines, our next step is to learn how to draw the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, the hair, the cheeks, the chin, the neck, the shoulders, all the different parts of the face, until eventually we have something like this.